Okay, good. Welcome everybody. So today we're going to go over fear. There's 11 parts. This is an 11-step process. Okay, I'm going to go over 11 things. First, we're going to do some foundations. There's 5 foundational steps, like preliminary steps. And then we're going to define fear. And then I'm going to go into the 5 steps to eliminate fear. Okay. So this was just a 5-step framework called the Fear 5, 5 things to do to overcome fear. But I decided to add some preliminaries really quick. And of course, the definition of fear. If you do have any questions during the class, you can pop them into the chat and we can use them for discussion. All right. I hope you're all with me. Just to say, this is extremely important. In our life, in our business, generally fear is the opposite of what we want. It is the thing that stops us. It is the primary culprit. Underneath all other negative states of mind, you can pretty much find fear. It is the heart obstacle. It is the primary obstacle of a spiritual person or of any person. It is the opposite of faith. It will destroy your foundation. It will destroy your practice. It will destroy your progress. It will cause you to stand still when you should be moving. It will cause you to freak out and move when you should be standing still. It will make you make really bad decisions. And even if you take action with fear, you're taking it from the wrong place. And so you will not experience fruit that comes from good actions with a good heart. Fear is not a good heart. Fear is the opposite of a good heart. Fear is horrible. It is ego. It is literally the primary thing that we want to overcome. There's no benefit. And in this context, obviously, I'm talking about the type of fear that is neurotic and negative. We'll talk about the fact that there could be a positive type of fear in a different call, but that's not this call. This call is for the things that stop you, the things that make you question yourself, the things that make you think that you're not worthy. Like underneath all your negative thoughts, underneath all your negative self-talk, underneath all your negative actions or your inaction, you can pretty much always find fear. Do you guys understand? Does this resonate? Do you guys really want to overcome this? Okay, I'm sharing you things that I learned as a monk at a temple, like in deep practice. You cannot hide when you live at a temple and you have no things around you, no TVs, nothing distracting. You can't hide. You have to look at your mind and you need to learn to work with it. And I'm going to share things that have been helpful for me. Okay. The first 3 steps of the actual process that we'll get to in a minute are life-changing. So I can't wait to get there. It will change your life, I promise you. But first, a little bit of foundation. Cool. Just real quick before I get into it, I'm going to use the word belief a lot of times in this call, the word belief. I'm not talking about beliefs that we hold in our head. I'm not talking about intellectual beliefs. I'm not talking about things that you say, oh yeah, that's what I believe. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about beliefs that your heart is holding. Our heart holds another set of beliefs that it thinks is true. We don't even know what most of those are, actually. It's like a fish doesn't really know what water is. We don't really even see most of our beliefs. They're so close that we can't see them. That is the truth. Okay, so part of learning to overcome fear, a big part of it, is learning to identify what beliefs am I already holding in my heart. It means the beliefs that I live by, the beliefs that shake me to my core, the beliefs that won't let me move forward when I really want to, the beliefs that whatever we do, they inform our decisions. Those are the beliefs I'm talking about today. Okay, one more thing I'll say before I start is I have had a strong practice of overcoming shame and guilt. And I do understand that for a lot of us, shame and guilt are encasing our negativity. And for as long as they are encasing our negativity, they kind of form a little barrier around our negative stuff. And it makes it very hard to work with anything deeper when we have shame or guilt about it. I'm not saying that this is bad or that you won't benefit from the class if this is the case, but I am saying that I use language that is very, very direct. And I do not pander to shame and guilt. These are negative emotions, and you can say that they're types of fear, actually. You can say that they're similar to fear in how they are working. And so this formula will work with shame and guilt. And you just understand that those are a layer above the actual thing that we need to work on in some cases, especially shame, I would say. So just to say, like, I don't mean to ever offend anyone. However, I'm pretty direct and I'd like to be truthful. And if you find that anything I say is ever hard, it just means that this is an area to look at and possibly apply formulas and inner work to that spot first before even trying to do the deeper stuff. Not that those aren't deep, those are also incredibly deep too. Okay, enough with the groundwork. Let's get into it. The first thing as a preliminary is we need to learn to calm ourselves down using language. In general, in our life, we need to learn how to calm ourselves down using language. We need to learn how to talk to ourselves. Most of Buddhist meditation is learning how to talk to yourself. Not that we're Buddhist in here, but it's a cool form of meditation. A lot of meditation, a lot of inner work is about learning how to talk to yourself. You can talk to yourself to produce different outcomes, to produce different neurology. And here we need to calm our nervous system down. We need to learn how to get access to our own nervous system. Our nervous system is being triggered all the time in good and bad ways, constantly. Social media, in fact, is designed to trigger your nervous system. If it doesn't, then you won't use it that much. And so they, on purpose, trigger your nervous system. They find out what are your favorite emotions, what are your favorite flavors of emotion, and then they trigger you. They send you exactly that content in probably specific orders, specific sequence of content to get you to get into your favorite emotional patterns, because then you'll be addicted to the platform. And you can check to see if it works or not. But for a lot of us, it works very well. And so this is just because they learned how to hack our nervous system. We need to learn how to do that too. If they can do it from an algorithm, somewhere within a computer in a different part of the country, we can do it to ourselves. We just need to sit with ourselves and learn how to be by ourselves and learn how to talk to ourselves. Your language will rewire you. You can calm yourself down. And when you learn to do this, you gain access to all the other tools that you've been learning. All the other inner work tools that you know and that you've learned, you've probably spent limitless hours and energy and money learning these things. They are not going to work for you unless you actually learn how to penetrate your own energy body, your own nervous system. You have to get access to it, and language is pretty much the best way. But there's two more ways. So the next part, number 2, is we need to learn to use breathing meditation and acceptance. We need to learn how to breathe. We need to learn how to use breathing meditation and acceptance to gain access to ourself, to our mind, to our thoughts, to our energy body, to our nervous system. So breathing meditation and acceptance. So those are the 3 really: language, breathing meditation, and acceptance. This works for me. I'm telling you, breathing meditation is the most simple form of meditation, non-denominational. We just focus on our breath and we just don't think about anything else. When my teacher guides this, he starts by saying, stop thinking about anything else and just enjoy focusing on your breath. If you can do that for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, usually it takes about 10 minutes to actually get into it. So you really want your meditations to be 10 minutes minimum. 15 is a really good spot to shoot for, but you really don't want to go longer than 25 in the beginning, because it gets sloppy. Just like lifting weights with bad posture can hurt you, and it can also lead to bad habits in weightlifting. In the same way, if you meditate with bad form, it causes bad habits in meditation, and it can actually hurt you, to be honest. For example, if you always fall asleep when you meditate, it causes a bad habit of falling asleep when you meditate. And so you need to learn to counteract that. So to counteract that, we make our meditation short and crisp and sweet and clean, right? Beginning, end, have more endings, right? If you fall asleep in meditation, you just need to have sooner endings so that you can make it really good in the middle. So you can do a 5-10 minute meditation. That's fine. If you have a hard time getting yourself to sit down and meditate, a little hack, little trick you can do is tell yourself it's just going to be 1 minute. I'm going to do a 1 minute meditation. And then after the 1 minute, you have the option to get up. It allows you to get your butt in the seat and to start, which is usually the hardest part. And once you're doing it, you probably will start to enjoy it. And then you're probably going to want to keep going. That works for me, right? But if you give yourself a very low bar to jump over, like I'm just going to sit down for 1 minute, you find usually that you do enjoy it, and you're going to usually, but you do have the option to get up. That's a really good discipline tool to use. But when you really do get into it, I do recommend minutes. If you're being guided, you can usually go a little bit longer, such as 20, whatever. And yeah, just focusing on your breath is enough. It's enough to what you do is you just bring your mind back. Whenever it wanders away, you just bring it back. I know this sounds boring, but it will give you more peace than anything else that you could choose to do with that 15-minute block. There's no other activity that you could do for 15, 20 minutes that will bring you as much peace cumulatively. Cumulatively is cumulative. Buddha said drops in a bucket eventually make it full. When you meditate a little bit every day, eventually you are full of peace. You have a reservoir of peace. You have an untapped ocean of peace in your heart that you walk around with, that you have access to. Something goes wrong, you can dip back into that ocean, to that reservoir, and deal with it in a calm way, in a peaceful way. This will save you so much problems. It'll save you from going into instinctual, dramatic patterns. It'll save you from mistakes of behavior and action and voice. And you can just be in a peaceful way. Also, it's the source of happiness. When you're peaceful, you automatically feel happiness. Happiness is kind of like the rays of the sun, and the peace is kind of like the sun. When you feel peaceful, you are happy. It is the ultimate way to be happy, and breathing meditation is the simplest way to be peaceful. Meditation in general is the way to be peaceful. Meditation and wisdom, really. Wisdom brings peace also in a different way, but concentration brings peace also. They're both important. Okay. Sometimes we call meditation mental stabilization on something positive. Mental stabilization on something positive. You focus on something positive or even neutral, like your breath, and you just stabilize it, meaning you don't move from it. And if you learn to do that, your mind will start to absorb into it and become one with it. And you need to allow that process, allow the process of absorbing into the breath, becoming one with the breath. Distractions will start to become less and less enticing. Start to just enjoy it more. And over time, you will experience a lot of benefit, including influence with people. If you're learning to do sales calls and marketing, your presence will be very powerful. People will recognize it and they will want to bask in the rays of your sun, right? They're going to feel the energy coming off of you. They're going to want that. That's one of the hacks to sales, by the way. It's like people at some point decide, I want what you've got. And I don't know exactly what it is, but I want it. How much? That's pretty much what sales calls come down to a lot of time with this type of work. So being at your best makes a big difference. Okay, acceptance is the other one. We're going to talk a lot about that in the next part, so I won't go into it now. Yeah, I won't go into that now. I'll come back to acceptance. It just means kind of being okay with how things are without wishing them to be different. Okay, number 3. These are the preliminary steps. The first one was using language, and the second one was breathing, meditation, and acceptance. The third of the preliminaries is exercising faith in daily life. That's a pretty good preliminary, right? Learning to believe in positive things. Faith. Have more faith in daily life. Faith is the opposite of fear in many ways. Okay, so faith means multiple things, really. It means appreciating beauty, like beautiful qualities in others, maybe, or in yourself. Appreciating the divine hand in your life, the divine influence in your life. Appreciating that you have a good heart, that other people have a good heart. It could be really, faith means believing in things that are pure and valuable, believing that, you know, um, today's going to be a good day, right? And that you will be supported by some divine force today, right? That's faith. Any positive belief is considered faith. Any positive type of appreciation is considered faith within Buddhism. And any positive wish is actually considered faith in Buddhism. So wishing, wishing that naturally comes from appreciation, is faith, right? So if you appreciate other people in your life, you're probably going to wish to help them or to benefit them or to show them kindness or to return their kindness or to support them, right? If you appreciate others, you'll probably want to be helpful to them in some way. That's a beneficial type of a wish. It's, you can call that faith. But also, like, you can do big picture ways, like everyone here has their own personal spiritual practice, like believing into that. What are the key beliefs that make that function? Right? What are the foundational beliefs of that? Like exercising it. You already have that muscle, just exercise it more throughout the day. Right? That'll get you moving in the right direction. Faith kind of lubricates the gears of our mind. It helps all of our other practices to work better, really to work at all. Faith kind of, it lubricates the gears of our mind so that all our other spiritual practices work. Without it, they don't actually work. That's my experience, that's my opinion, and there it is. Okay, so number 3, exercise faith in daily life. Number 4 is using principles to choose our behavior instead of feelings or circumstances. This is an interesting one. I do feel personally that if you use principles such as, what are my values? What does my religion say about this? What do my mentors say about this? What do I personally feel are the right things from a higher place? What are the principles I want to live by? And if you choose your actions based on those, you'll avoid a lot of mistakes and you'll get yourself going in a good direction without having to even be that tuned in, that tapped in. You could be in a horrible negative mindset. But if you at least just use principles to choose your behavior, you'll go in the right direction and you won't make any big mistakes. That's kind of important. And these days, it's very difficult to find people who really do this well. And so this is one of the most incredibly difficult practices in the world right now, is this. Using, they call it moral discipline, but like using higher principles as your guidelines and actually sticking to it, right? Actually sticking to it in the moments of choice. I'm not talking about like, oh, I'm not going to eat cheesecake. And then you see cheesecake and do I eat it? Do I not eat it? That's not really a meaningful question, right? Who cares about the cheesecake? It's more like, am I nice to people? Like, if people are nice, like, do I treat people with respect? Do I have a commitment to myself to never harm people with my words or with my actions, right? Whatever, right? I'm talking about those kinds of principles, right? The golden rule, right? Treat others as you want to be treated. Something like this. Find a couple of things that you really believe in that are aligned with your values personally. And just if you decide to live by those, it really sets you in the right direction. It builds momentum. It protects you like a kind of like a exoskeleton, or like a vehicle, right? It protects you like you're inside a vehicle. Nothing can hurt you when you're in a vehicle. Nothing can really hurt you when you're living like this. It's pretty powerful, actually. So that's number 4, choosing principles, using principles to make your choices instead of feelings, meaning, how do I feel in the moment? I said I was going to meditate this morning, right? But I don't really feel like it. Will I do it or not? Well, if I choose a principle way, I'll do it because I said I would. Right? I decided to do it, and so I'm going to do it no matter how I feel. So instead of using feelings or circumstances to make choices, you use principles. That's easier said than done. Very powerful. I suggest we try it. It really makes probably the biggest difference out of all these things, I would say. But it's not easy. So give yourself some credit. If you fall off, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Don't throw out the plan. Keep the plan and just try to do better. And maybe lower the bar a little bit and keep trying, because it is worth it. It makes a big difference. But be kind to yourself if and when you slip up, because it's easy to slip up and it's not a big deal. You just keep trying because you will get better at it. Okay, that's number 4. Number 5 This is the last foundation. We want to see fear clearly as an enemy. So that is number 5. See fear clearly as an enemy. Fear is an enemy. We need to look our enemy in the face. We need to learn to confront the fear. We need to learn to recognize that it is in our life. It's in our heart. It comes out. It bothers us. It bothers our actions. It takes us off track. Whew, it is not fun, and it is not us. It's easy to see it as an enemy when we realize that it is not us. It is not ourself. It is not intrinsic to us, right? A dog might get a virus or might get like a parasite. You don't recognize that the parasite is part of the dog. You know that the parasite is not part of the dog. And so you can decide to remove it without feeling like you're hurting the dog. You can love the dog and try to kill the parasite at the same time. In fact, you need to have that attitude for effective removal of the parasite. In the same way, you need to love yourself, but see that fear is hijacking you. Fear has hijacked your heart already. It has hijacked your mission. It has hijacked whatever you hold dear and is riding along like a parasite. And if you recognize that it's not you, then you can clearly target it without ever feeling like you're targeting yourself or that you're hurting yourself. That clear distinction allows you to be forceful, wrathful, fierce with the enemy of fear without ever feeling like you're harming yourself. If at any point in trying to remove fear or any other negative state of mind or emotion or whatever, if we ever start to feel bad, it probably means that we've identified it as ourself. Like if we get angry and we learn how to not be angry, right? You would try to identify anger is not me. Anger is not me, and therefore I can let it go, right? It's not us. And if we ever start feeling bad in a process of releasing anger, it just means that we think it's us, and that makes us get harmed whenever we try to harm anger. This is the same thing here. Fear is not us, and we can remove it without hurting ourselves. Actually, the most loving thing we can do to ourselves is to remove fear, pretty much. Okay, so that's it. Those are the 5 preliminary steps. And now let's go on to number 6, which is to define fear. So I want to define fear. Okay, so in this context, I'm going to use a special definition of fear that is probably moving, but also it really fits into this 5 steps I'm about to share. Okay, so this definition of fear is imagining and believing in a negative future. Basically, imagining and believing in a negative future, a negative version of the future, or a negative scenario in the future. We imagine it. So there's 2 parts. There's something that appears to our mind. There's an imagination, visualization type of thing. We play it out, but then we believe in it. It's not just imagining it, we believe in it, right? If you're in a car and you imagine a car crash happening that you're part of, it might be scary, but what if you don't believe it's going to happen? What if it's just like images on a screen, right? The fact that it is so terrifying is that we believe in it. We believe, oh, this is going to happen. Like imagining and believing in what we don't want, right? You've heard about manifestation, right? Try to imagine and believe in what you do want, right? Fear is the opposite. Fear manifests what you don't want by imagining and believing in it. It is already functioning. We don't have to try. It's already doing this job, but we do need to identify it and try to remove it. Okay, so imagining and believing in what we don't want. Usually it's about the future, usually, but it doesn't have to be. Imagining and believing what we don't want. Part of the belief is that we feel that it's imminent. We feel that it's definite. And we feel that it's unavoidable. Most of the time, not in our head, but in our heart. Our heart actually thinks that whatever we're fearing is imminent, meaning it's about to happen. It's definitely going to happen, and it's unavoidable, like a car crash unfolding. It's like you're viewing a car accident that you're in, slow motion, right? That's how fear kind of feels. It feels like, I can't even avoid this. Or like a train crash or whatever, right? It's like, I can't avoid this. It's going to happen. I already know it's going to happen. fear grips us. Do you guys resonate with this? Does this definition make sense? For example, I want to go post on social media, but what if people judge me? So we are not imagining and believing in all the people that are going to cheer for us, like visualizing all the people that are going to cheer and think we're great and love us and support us. Instead, fear visualizes the people that silently judge us from behind their keyboards. But it's like this amorphous blob of like imaginary people, and we feel judged imaginarily. So we are imagining and believing in something that isn't real. It's just a fantasy, right? I've heard the definition of anxiety is fantasy with a bad ending. Do you guys resonate with that? Anxiety is fantasy with a bad ending. That is pretty much what I'm talking about here with fear. It is that. It is a fantasy with a bad ending, but it's one that we actually believe in and feel that we are on a collision course with, basically unavoidable, and we're on our way. It feels very panicky. It feels helpless. It feels all those things overwhelming. There's a bunch of stuff that all comes into our mind together, and we need to learn to identify each thread. It's like a ball of yarn, right? And we want to identify what are the threads here, and we work with them one by one. Every little emotion or piece of that conglomerate is very workable, but as long as we keep it as an amorphous blob of emotion, we can't work with it. We have to try to identify each piece. Okay. And so for that reason, step number one in the actual process of overcoming fear is to identify clearly what is the fear, right? Identify very clearly what is the fear. Now, if you guys want, I'm happy to like talk someone through this as an example. If someone wants to kind of give an example, but not, okay, Debbie, only if we can keep it short. Okay, keep your answers short, please, because I want to get through all these steps without breaking my flow. Okay, so what is a simple example
Okay.
of a fear that we can use?
Simple? Well, plane crash. Plane crashing.
Is it a real fear? Is it
Yeah,
a real fear that you have?
but I actually don't necessarily want to go into it because I have to fly in a few weeks. I chose to do that, and that was my fear. 2 years ago, I developed a phobia, but I'm
Okay.
not focusing on it so that it doesn't become a fear. I'll just take something to calm me down,
Okay.
and sleep. So I feel like maybe it's not a good thing.
Okay. This is a good, okay, it's a good example because it's pretty simple. Okay, so
Okay.
the fear, we identify the fear. Um, there's like a couple different parts of this, right? So there's an emotion of fear. So we have to look within and identify that there actually is a fear. And then once you see that there is a fear, you want to identify very clearly, what am I afraid of? What is the fear believing in right now? What is the thing that the fear thinks is going to happen? And in this
Yeah.
case, it's pretty easy to identify. The plane
Yeah.
crash, right? It's going to crash.
Right. Hmm. Yeah.
I'm sure you can see it in your mind.
Yeah.
What?
That I said, yeah, the fear is that I'll die.
Yeah. Okay. That you'll die in a plane crash. Cool.
Yeah.
Now, with other fears that we have, a lot of times is a little bit less tangible, is a little bit harder to identify. There's other things, but like for this one, it's kind of cool because it's really easy to see that. Okay. Does everyone kind of get this? Um, what would be an example? Does anyone else have an example of like a more like emotional fear, something a little bit less tangible, less, yeah, Christine.
I was gonna say, if you
Yeah,
want to
go ahead,
continue on with like
Christine.
the fear of posting, so for social media or
Yeah,
or
okay.
sharing what you do in business.
Okay, let's talk about that. So, does anyone have like a way, like a action? Does this come up for anyone in any way that's debilitating? And if so, like, what does it actually feel like? I'd love to hear like what is the precise. This is like step number one. Is like getting really precise about the thing that we are imagining is going to happen. Megan, go ahead.
Sure. Briefly, it's kind of a feeling of, it's almost like staying in the cave is safer. So it's like if I go out of the cave, I'm in great danger. And so it really gets me like something's going to happen to my family. something's going to happen to my pets. If I put myself out there that like something, you know, that, or, you know, it's basically, it's pretty big. It's not like, oh, I'm afraid of what people think. It's like, oh, if I expose myself stepping out of the cave, it's like a primordial thing.
Okay, got it. I agree with you. You're right. That's real. It's real. It feels like that. So tell me, so something's gonna happen to you or your family or your pets, but like what is the middle step? So like you put yourself out there, something happens, and then your family's in danger. What's that middle step? Like what actually, who intercepts the content and then targets your family? What is that happening?
Well, like, exactly. And I think that's like, you know, like the overlords of social media. Like,
Uh-huh. Okay, so the overlords of social media who are very, very well connected, some sort of elite things, maybe there's reptiles involved, maybe there's aliens
well,
involved.
perhaps. Yeah.
Huh? What?
Perhaps. Yeah. Yeah. You're on the right track.
Well, come on though. Yeah, so like getting precise about it. Here's how fear hides, by the way. Fear hides by it's like a shapeshifter. It can go into all these places. And so unless you isolate it with one, you can't actually remove that fear. It's gonna go somewhere else, right? It's gonna hide like a little shadow dweller. And so we need to actually be precise about it. So like tell me the middle step that actually stops you. What is it? What is it? Social media overloads, and then what? Tell me all the things, the mechanics of what happens that puts your family in danger.
Oh, like say it could be like a force, like, okay, Liz, maybe an unseen force that would like cause either like a sickness or an accident or, you know, something like tragic to happen or traumatic to happen. Where
An
somebody would,
unseen.
yeah, like a malevolent energy, so to speak, that may like invade. I sound crazy, but that could like invade like or put somebody in like harm's way. But I think also this comes down to like belief and faith, right? Because if you're like if you have strong faith, you're backed, you're protected. And you know, if I continually protect my family, like every day I say a prayer to protect my loved ones and my, you know, people that I care about. So I don't
We're
know.
not on that step yet. Don't try to fix it yet. We need to
Okay.
identify precisely the fear first. This is important. Don't fix
Okay.
it yet.
Sometimes I'll have like a vision of like
So
something happening, or I'll like not necessarily the vision, but I'll like the it goes back to the anxiety, like, oh, what if somebody slips and hurts themselves, and then the whole you wrench in the wheel, wrench in the engine type of thing, or that thing when someone throws a wrench in it and it messes up the whole process.
uh, so
Something
what does
something
that
like,
have to, so
go ahead.
okay. Now when you said that you sound crazy, that is good. And we're gonna get to that in a minute. Like when we actually verbalize a fear, it's not gonna sound logical. When we actually articulate it, it doesn't sound logical, but we need to not try to refute it yet. When you're trying to identify the fear, it's almost like here's how you imagine it. Imagine that you are a savvy reporter interviewing an evil politician candidate or whatever, and you're trying to like interview with them and get them to expose themselves and give you all the crummy details about them, but you don't challenge them on any of it yet. If you challenge them on it, they'll stop the interview, right? They'll say, oh, I don't want to do this. You kind of go with them. Oh yeah, oh, and then what? And then what happened, right? So you kind of like pull it out of them almost by like encouraging it. You're not trying to refute it. You're trying to get the scoop. You're trying to get the whole scoop on the evil, on all the junk. So we do not try to overcome it yet. We have to just let ourselves see it without any fight in the moment. Okay. Okay, no problem, Christine. This is being recorded. Cool. Enjoy. Thanks for being here. Okay. So, um, does that make sense, Megan?
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
continue. Yeah.
No, you go ahead. Like, how does that land? Like, in that context, how would you describe what is the object of fear? What's the bad thing that you're imagining from the point where you hit send on the content all the way to your family gets in danger? What are some of those middle steps that might be happening according to the fear?
Or it could be like, I guess that another way is, which it does sound crazy whenever Blythe said, it was like somebody casting dark magic. You know, like somebody like seeing the light work and being like, well, I'm gonna, and then maybe because I know how to protect myself, that it would affect somebody around me because they don't know how to shield or protect themselves. So
Okay.
it's like
Very good.
magic. Yeah.
That's great. Okay, very good example. I'm gonna try to bring you through the next couple steps, and Debbie, you can go through them also with the plane crash analogy if you want to. I think it'll be easier for you to apply them. But yeah, you can both apply it. Okay, so this next step is like the key one that I think most people get wrong or they don't include. Here's the thing. We can see that underneath every fear is like a irrational belief. I think that's pretty clear, right? Underneath every fear, at the core of every fear is a belief that is not true and that is hurtful, that's harmful. And a lot of people try to go right from fear to overcoming the limiting belief, the negative belief. But we can't. We can't go right to it as long as we're afraid, usually, because our mind is too shaky. We cannot access it. We're too emotional. We don't have access yet. So we need to do this middle step. This step number 2 is acceptance. And this one solves the problem of the emotional overreaction, the shaky mind, the blah, 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 dramatic thinking that makes our mind shake and it makes us unstable. All the negative effects of fear, well, a lot of the negative effects of fear come from kind of resisting that negative outcome. Okay, so what's happening is our mind is imagining and believing in a version of the future that we do not want, that we feel is imminent, we feel is unavoidable, we feel like it's going to happen, it has to happen, we're on a collision course with it. You know, if I follow through, I will get crushed by the thing that I'm imagining. And we are not just believing in that negative outcome, but we actually are resisting it. We push it away, we resist it, we reject. We are rejecting that negative outcome. And just so we know, in the moment, our mind is believing in that outcome as a possibility, is believing in it as a strong possibility, even as an imminent possibility. So there's no point in trying to argue with ourselves in this moment. There's nothing we can do that will actually overturn this belief until we accept the worst case scenario of the thing that we're imagining. So for Debbie, that means accept that you would die in a plane crash. Not accept it as a definite outcome of it, because the possibility of it is truth. That's the important thing here, is all we're trying to do is accept the truth. We're not trying to accept a falsity or a untruth. We're trying to only accept truth because at the moment our mind is resisting truth. We are rejecting truth. We push away the truth, and that's what causes the shakiness. That's why we're emotionally unstable when we have fear. It's because we're resisting a version of the truth. Now, the truth is not that you will die in a plane crash. The truth is that it's a possibility. And you need to embrace that possibility. If you embrace that possibility, you will be calm and peaceful. And trust me, it does not increase the chances that it happens. All it does is remove all your negative emotion about it. And then the belief is easy to overturn. Then any logic will actually work. Then you can be like, oh, but you know what? I looked up the numbers, and one in 1,000 or 1 in 1 million planes end up crashing, and of those, only half the time do anybody die or whatever, right? So like, you can show yourself through numbers like this won't happen. People go on planes. It's actually safer than driving. Planes are actually safer than driving, believe it or not. I think they're a lot safer, to be honest. And so like these types of beliefs actually will work. Your mind will understand, and it's quite easy. Like when you say, oh, you know what, this sounds crazy, but all that stuff, it becomes easy to actually get your heart to adopt a new rational, like stabilizing belief, like a positive belief. That becomes easy. That's step 3, is to do that belief shifting work that replaces the negative belief with the positive belief. But step 2 is the key step that people miss out on. We try to accept and embrace the worst case scenario, the possibility that it could happen. Yeah, Megan?
I'm just seeing like a Hogwarts type of thing where it's like, well, what if the dark magicians did come in and I'm like battling them? So like worst case scenario, I gotta like pull out my white magic spell, tricks and like battle darkness. Like, so like look at it like I can kind of like put mine in like a storytelling or a mythological kind of sense of like visualizing, okay, what if something really bad does happen? Well, then I'll do this, but it probably won't. So it kind of applies to, because hers is a more logical fear,
That's not an acceptance. That's a solution. That's a solution. Try to avoid solutions.
Okay, we're on step 2 still.
Yes, that we don't really want to do. When we go into a solution, that just shows that we have creativity. It doesn't actually mean that we're accepting. Acceptance means that we've run out of solutions and we're not even trying to apply a solution. We just embrace the possibility that it could happen. It means that you actually feel at peace, even if it did happen. So for you, it would be like, the negative forces do this and your family gets harmed because they were unprotected. You would actually have to embrace that as being, a possibility. Like if this happens, could you be okay with that?
Yeah, and this applies to some other things in my life, like worrying about my people getting sick too. So I need to apply, because that's another big thing I harbor, is worrying about them getting sick. Yeah. So it can apply.
Yeah, exactly. So acceptance means that we embrace something wholeheartedly without resisting it. And we give up the idea of that things should be other than what they are. So the words should and shouldn't are the antithesis. They're the opposite of acceptance. Those are the trying to find excuses and whatever, right? We try to actually embrace things the way they are without wishing them to be different. Without wishing them to be different. We embrace it for what it is, like a no escape type of thing. Can you actually open your heart to this possibility? If other people got harmed or got sick in your life, could you be okay with it? Could you be like, you know what? I accept. Everyone gets sick. People do get harmed. If there's someone doing black magic, they're going to get them eventually anyway. If they're this unprotected, then eventually they die. What was the meaning of their life anyway? And so why am I resisting this? You need to put it down. Just accept that it could happen. Not that it's going to happen, but that it could happen.
Right. And just
then
like
you'll
you said,
be at peace. Then you're actually.
Yeah. Go ahead.
What's that?
Oh, sorry. I was saying just finding peace, which was what you were saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll be peaceful if it happens.
That seems hard to do.
Imagine it happened.
It seems hard to do.
Okay, maybe. So what you want to do is start with easy ones.
My stuff.
Huh?
I feel bad. I wouldn't want them to be without me.
Well, think about it though. Would your feeling bad about it and being over, would it actually make you less helpful in the situation?
Yeah.
If you personally felt bad about it.
I would rather think about it as they would be okay, like they're old enough that they would be okay. I'd rather think about it positively. I know that now, but I don't like to get into the possibilities. If I get too much into my mind, it doesn't work. If I just allow, it's unlikely, yet I accept the fact that it can be okay and everybody can be okay.
That could happen. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as opposed
the thing
to
is, a lot of us, You seem like you get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I just, if
Here's
I
the
overthink
thing.
that, I don't.
If we have, yeah, try not to overthink it. The truth is that if we are afraid of something, we are already dwelling on the negative version of what could happen so much that this type of exercise is actually worth it. You actually go in, you accept it, you overturn the belief, you're in and out, and it's gone. You
It's a quick
actually
thing.
will stop yourself.
It's a
Yeah,
quick
it's like doing
thing,
surgery. Like you have to,
not analysis paralysis.
yeah, it can be quick.
Okay. Okay.
No, it's like doing surgery, right? Like, yeah, it might kind of it's not good to cut open somebody's knee unless you're gonna do surgery on it. Then you can get in and out and you're done, you patch it up and they heal. It's like
Okay.
that. Like, yeah, you have to like look at some uncomfortable things, but the
Yeah.
truth is that if you have fear, you're already imagining and believing in these negative things so much that they're starting to become like your reality. They never really become your reality because negativity is not true. It can never become your actual reality, but it can be your experience of reality, and
Right.
it can drive your whole experience. So
Okay.
so the idea that we shouldn't focus on it because it's negative is not valid, because
Yeah.
if we're afraid, we are already focusing on it so much that it's really starting to create it.
Yeah,
So
it's there.
just we need to be okay with getting in, accepting the worst case possibilities, accepting the thing that we're afraid of, and then our mind calms.
Okay.
And
That
now you
night,
can, and now you
that's
can,
scalpel is a good analogy. I like could just dig into the wound, or it's not even a wound, it's just there, the pain, and
yeah,
then accept it, and then we'll patch it up later. But anyway, yeah, I like that. That works for me.
yes, yeah,
Mhm.
yes, yes, exactly. Good. Yeah, step number three is replacing that negative belief with the positive belief. So like we try to introduce that's the scalpel is step three. Is like step two allows you to gain access. It just reduces the emotional intensity. This works with triggers. All triggers are really fear anyway, right? And so there's an emotional intensity which keeps the fear, which is at the belief, which is at the core of it, intact.
Mm.
Underneath all triggers, underneath all fear, there is a negative belief that is intact that we never really gain access to. It's so hard to see because there's emotional intensity within us that causes us to be shaky, and our hand is shaky with the scalpel. You can't do surgery with a shaky hand. You can't overturn fear with a shaky mind, with emotional intensity. Acceptance reduces your emotional intensity, so you actually embrace it. You feel like, you know what, I would be okay.
Mhm.
I'd be okay if this happened. If I were to die in a car crash, you know what? I believe in future lives. I believe in heaven. I believe in something like this. I'll be okay. I'll be okay. Right?
Mhm.
Oh, you know what? My kids, they've gotten me for a long time. Like, they'll be okay. They're strong. They'll be okay. Right?
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to die
Like
eventually.
exposures.
I believe that they're fine. I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Huh?
No, I'm not laughing at you, Debbie. I'm laughing at, I gotta die eventually. That's what I was laughing at.
Right, right. True, true. I'm old enough. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
But
not
you know,
you,
it's like,
but any of us, like we're all gonna die. Like this
yeah,
one.
yeah, true, true. And it's exposures too. It's like, at least I was going somewhere good. No, I'm kidding. But exposures, like with OCD, like what we do, exposure, in psychology, that's the treatment for when we have a fear of something is exposures. Actually, they bring you to the actual thing you're afraid of. So it's the same thing, but we're imagining it, is what I'm hearing you say, John. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes,
Cool. Yeah.
that is it. And you really try to do it from a place of peacefulness and acceptance, because you don't want to get triggered by it. You don't want to
That's
get re-traumatized.
exposure.
You don't want to meditate on the negative thing. And so you're trying to do it with the right emotions, which
Yeah.
should really be acceptance as the key one.
Okay, that's
That
important.
safe space of peace and the steady hand of acceptance. Yeah, but you're right. That is it. It's imagination work, but it really does work.
Mm. Cool.
It really works. So for Megan, you would just accept, my friends and family, my pets might get magic thrown at them, and people might start doing dark magic. Like I accept if that happens, I can accept that. I can accept that they'll do this because you know what? I'm always going to do my best to help them, and you know what? Maybe they are more protected than I think. Maybe I need to give them enough credit. You know, maybe whatever. Any of those beliefs will start to work if you're like, I accept. I accept that this could happen, and what maybe it's already happening. You know,
Right. And
maybe.
it also neutralizes it because it's like neutralizing the within us that's like, because let's say it doesn't happen. Well, then we're spending all this time worrying about it. That will never happen. Like, so it's like that
Yes.
neutral place, or the peace place, the place of just like neutrality,
Yeah.
of like getting out of that. And it's, for me, it's, I'm sorry, I know this has taken so much time. I have to walk before I pick up the girls, but it's like really taking so much energy, and that takes it out of the flow, the creativity. Like you said, it's like a monster. The fear is like a monster and an enemy, you know, on the foundations you laid. So basically, like the fear of something like that happening is causing like the lack, or the lack of momentum here in the present moment.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love that you just said it's like a monster. That's an analogy I usually use. This is something I saw clearly from my own experience when I was on my longer, like silent retreat. Fear, like imagine a child being afraid of the boogeyman in the closet, right? The lights are off, the closet door is closed, and this kid is afraid, petrified of the boogeyman in the closet. Just like our fear right now is we're literally afraid of something that does not exist, right? Because we are imagining a possibility, which is a sliver of all the possibilities included within reality, and we are believing that it is imminent, that we are on a crash course with it. So because we decided that that one possibility is our imminent future, that means that we are literally believing in something that does not exist. The object of fear does not exist. The thing that fear believes in always does not exist. Just like the boogeyman in the closet does not exist. The kid is not the kid is afraid of something that does not exist, and the fear is stabilized because he cannot see. As soon as you open the door and turn on the light, the boogeyman in the closet doesn't disappear. It just is revealed that it was never there. And that's when the fear goes. So the fear will definitely disappear when you show your mind that whatever it is that you were afraid of does not exist. And in this case, the possibility does exist, but that's not what we are believing in. That makes our mind afraid and shaky. What we believe in is an imminent future, is this possibility as a definite, concrete, imminent future. That is non-existent. That version does not exist. I hope that I'm being very precise, and it's okay if you cannot see that all the way. I don't know. Normally people don't talk in this exact way I'm talking, but this is the truth. If we're getting technical and precise, it is a belief in something that does not exist because you're not seeing it as a possibility. It is not a flexible blank canvas. The future is this blank canvas, and let me believe in the one thing that will make me shaky and afraid all the time. No, you're not seeing it as one of billions and millions of possibilities. You're seeing it as the thing that will happen. I'm on a train and I'm set to that station. It is going to happen. And so in that way, we can say that it's the object of fear does not exist. The thing that you are believing in literally does not exist at all, just like the boogeyman in the closet. And you are like the kid petrified on the bed who cannot move simply because you lack even the courage to turn on the light and open the door. If you could accept that, oh, you know what? There could be a boogeyman in the closet. Let me go check it out and see. You know what? Maybe there is, and maybe it'll eat me. And maybe it'll rip my arms off. But you know what? I owe it to myself to at least try and check. So you know what? I accept that happens because I just got to see. Nothing could be worse than petrified on the bed. So I'm going to turn on the light. I'm going to open the door and I'm going to look.
Right.
And if we do that
Yeah.
with our,
Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. Do you have something to add to that?
I just really like that analogy of like, well, either stay on the bed petrified or just open the damn door and look the monster in the eye. And then like you were saying about timelines, like, oh, we're like projecting a potential sliver of a timeline when there's like multiple timelines to like for the future. So that's what you meant, kind of like the timeline. We're like using like a projector as if we're a fortune teller, and then even if we had those abilities, we can still collapse time and rescript it. So it's like stepping into that power of like, you know what? I'm not going to play into this manifestation. Like, screw you, thought form, get out of my way. You know,
Yeah.
like I'm more powerful than you.
It's
And
Yeah,
Is
it's an unrealistic belief. Go ahead, Demi.
Yeah, is it just like it's like one thread of the right
Yeah.
of the string or whatever you said it was? It's
It's
like we're
one
focused
thread.
on just that one thread, and yet
Yeah.
there's so many pieces. Like
There's like literally infinite possibilities. And so it is not true that one is imminently going to happen, right? But it's a very unrealistic way of relating to the future.
yeah,
That's the thing, is it is quite unrealistic. But in the beginning, we have to deal with it because our mind believes in it so much. We cannot try to show ourselves that it's not true yet, because it will not work. I don't know if you've ever tried that. Maybe your friends try to tell you, hey, you know what, Debbie, nothing ever happens, blah, 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 and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, Megan, it doesn't really hurt. Just go and post anyway. Like, the logic won't penetrate because we haven't accepted the worst case scenario. We have to, it's an unrealistic way of thinking about the future, but we have to work with it within its own frame first.
yeah, yeah.
We have to treat it like is realistic first and actually accept it. And then we will be at peace. And then the third step, which is replacing the negative belief, which is untrue, with a positive belief that is true, such as I can handle it, I'm okay. You know what, this probably won't happen. You know what, other people do it and they're fine, and so therefore I'll probably be fine. Like, these beliefs will work if you accept the worst case scenario first. So step 3 is to replace the negative, limiting, unrealistic belief that is the core of fear with a positive belief that is affirming. And there's lots of them. Just use lots of different types and they'll start to stick. You'll get a shift. You'll feel a shift. You'll be like, it'll be like an aha moment. Aha, I get it now. I see. This is, and you'll feel peaceful. You'll feel good. You'll feel free. Yes.
Is this something that you would recommend meditating on daily, or just doing a one and done thing? Like I have a few weeks left. What do you think? Or is there a recommendation?
I think, yeah, I love doing it in meditation. You may not have to, like, you can do it until it starts to work, right? You don't have to do it every
Right.
day,
Right.
but you may want to target a new fear every day. Like, you can work on this one until you feel like you're getting some relief, until it starts to work, and then
Right.
maybe move on to a different.
That's a cool idea.
Or maybe sometimes when it's like lifting up rocks.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like, sometimes you lift up the rock and you're like, there's some bugs underneath this one, and then you're like, and you work on it, and then you realize, oh, you know what, there's this other rock there, and you lift that up, right?
Yeah.
So like, maybe when you do this belief work, there'll be a fear even deeper underneath that you'll find. You'll be like, oh, you know what, now I know I need to work on this one next. It kind of leads you in this rabbit hole of overcoming all your fear.
Because I was thinking of trying something I fear every day, and I thought, well, how am I going to find something tiny? It's like, but there's lots of things when you keep doing stuff. There's always going to be little.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's always going to be little ones. And
So
if
that's
you
cool.
identify them all very precisely, you can actually overturn them, right? If you try to do a big thing, it doesn't really work. Doing small ones and getting these wins, it actually works this way.
That's cool. Okay.
That's my experience. Cool. Okay, so these are the main 3 steps. Then after this, we get a little bit tantric. We get a little bit esoterical. The 4th step is to sort of see the future as a blank slate, as a blank canvas, to really get into this idea of like limitless possibilities. There's nothing painted there yet. There is no future yet. We need to free ourselves from the idea that the future is definite or even existent. The future is non-existent, actually. It does not exist. And yet. And then the past is completely gone. The past is gone, literally 100% gone, including the version of me and you that was alive yesterday is gone, or else there'd be two of you, right? If there's two, imagine there's two Debbies, Debbie from yesterday and Debbie from today. No, Debbie from yesterday was a cause of the Debbie today. Megan from yesterday is a cause of the Megan today. Cause and effect cannot exist at the same time. Causes have to go out of existence for the effect to arise. This is part of Buddhist kind of science, I would say. Right? Cause and effect cannot exist at the same time. And so Debbie and John and Megan and the house you're in from yesterday had to disappear for the house you're in of today to come into existence, of the Debbie from today to come into existence, or the Megan from today to come into existence, or the John from today to come into existence. The Megan, Debbie, and John, who was alive this morning when you first woke up, is already gone. They're non-existent, actually, completely non-existent anymore, because they were a cause of the person now. And that person had to go out of existence for the person in this moment to be alive. And the Debbie, Megan, and John who was listening to the beginning of this sentence is already gone, right? Because they had to disappear. Every moment we're disappearing and reappearing, all things. Disappearing and reappearing every moment. And so that understanding will free you from the past as being this heavy weight. Very powerful, actually. And then the future is non-existent yet. And so there is nothing definite about the future. I promise you, the future is not definite. It is not set in stone. There is no predetermined destiny. There isn't. There are things that are in motion that will remain in motion. And there's trends and patterns and stuff, of course. But it is not determined and it is non-existent. It is a blank canvas. It's a very helpful frame that we can all get into about our own life. My future is completely a blank canvas. And the future is a blank canvas. I can paint any picture I want on that, including our day. You can do this one day at a time. Today is a blank canvas. I can paint whatever I want on today. I'm not burdened from the past. I'm not set in stone with any future. And therefore, I can, if I want to be happy today, I can paint that picture today. If I want to be successful, if I want to be a new person today, I can paint that picture today. If yesterday I was mean to somebody, this week I can be kind to them. If last week I neglected somebody, my pets or my dreams, this week I can give energy to them. Or today I can. So the future is a blank canvas. Getting into that idea free is that's like one with the fact that there's limitless possibilities. Blank, nothing predetermined, is completely one with, inseparable from the concept of limitless possibilities. So it's like nothingness and like everythingness combined. It's like everythingness that looks like nothingness, right? That's what life is. That's what the future is. And if you can get into that belief, it will be freeing. It is true also, and it is freeing. So try that on. That's step number 4.
It seems very good for letting go of guilt and shame, because if you're always like, you're not the same, that past version is gone, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's the question I was going to bring up just briefly, not to get you off track, was like the Buddhist perspective on like past regrets, because that's been haunting me a little bit. I'm not sure why. It's like I thought I'd healed. So I'm going up a massive hill. I thought I'd healed a lot of that stuff. So it's the same thing. It's like, well, that's part, she's gone. Like, come back to here. And then I'm going to re-listen to this part of the talk later. Yeah. I'm going to mute. Harry,
I can tell you real quick. Okay, I'll tell you real quick about the Buddhist idea of regret versus guilt. Again, this is the Buddhist idea. It's using language that is specific, but it does make sense. It does work. Okay, so according to Buddhism, guilt is kind of like a belief, I'm bad. Guilt is kind of like a belief, I'm bad. And there's usually a reason. And there's a flavor, right? I'm bad because I went to that party and I looked stupid and it was awkward and I just feel really dumb. I'm bad. Or I forgot to bring a gift to the party. I'm bad. My friend called me and I didn't call them back. I'm bad. Right? My children, blah, blah, blah. And end of the story is I'm bad because I didn't do the thing or I did the thing or whatever. So guilt is an identity that labels ourselves as being bad. And again, it won't really be in that exact language in your own mind. It'll have a particular slant. It'll be a particular flavor of I'm bad, but it has that basic meaning of I'm bad because this, right? So that's guilt. It is horrible. It is very similar to fear in terms of how to overcome it. It is a limiting belief, really, and you can overcome it using the steps that we've already talked about. Regret, according to Buddhism, regret can be positive, negative, or neutral, depending on what you're regretting. Regret reduces the karmic impact of an action. So Buddhism does believe in karma. Karma just means that every action plants a seed. It's a potentiality. Every action plants this potentiality within our consciousness, within our subtle consciousness, and that potentiality or seed will ripen as an effect that is similar to the cause. Right? So if I do bad things, I plant bad seeds, and those seeds gain momentum over time. And eventually, when they ripen, I experience very bad things that are a direct result of those negative actions. That is karma in a nutshell. And regret, but also like good things, right? I do good things, I plant good seeds. Those good seeds gain momentum over time. And whenever they ripen, I experience good things as a result. Karma is just the laws of the nature of the universe. Bad actions with bad intention have bad effects. Good actions with good intention have good effects. But in the middle is a seed-like potentiality that's in our subtle consciousness that gains momentum every day, meaning the effect increases. The longer it takes for a seed to ripen, the worse the effect, the more extreme the effect is, good or bad, which is interesting. But regret, hold on a second. Regret for our actions will reduce the intensity of the ripened effect. Meaning, if you regret a good action, it reduces the karmic impact it could have had on your life. For example, if you give money or gifts to somebody out of generosity and then later you regret it, that good impact is reduced because of the regret. And if you regret something immediately after doing it, you can pretty much eliminate its effect. Now, regret is one of the main tools in Buddhist purification practice. So if you do a negative action, you can regret the action. So regret in Buddhism is applied to our own negative actions. And it does reduce or eliminate their potential to have an effect. You can eliminate all bad experiences in your future by regretting all the bad things that you have previously done, including mostly in previous lives, according to Buddhism, right? And so
like
most of our bad things have done.
You keep going. Sorry, my brain goes fast. You continue. My brain just goes through.
Most of our bad things have done. No, that's good. Most of the bad things we've done happened in previous lives, according to Buddhism. Okay, go ahead. What was the next thing?
Well, I was just thinking of the word remorse, and like in my visionary sense, I do really well when I'm walking, like visionary wise, and I saw like walls collapsing. So I'm kind of getting to, we can collapse like the karmas, like you said, with the like regret or remorse. Yes. Or like, yeah, cool.
Yes.
Because I saw like all these like great big walls, they were like pounding them down. They were just collapsing, and the wall after wall is collapsing. And it's almost like a fire puts out, you rebuild, right?
Yes. I think of it like a fire. When I do it, it feels like I'm burning these seeds. It feels like the fire of regret burns all the negative seeds that are planted in my subtle mind. It burns them away, and they can no longer ripen as anything, as anything bad. That's how it feels for me. Yes.
So with decisions, I used to always regret whatever decision I would make. So is that like real bad karma? Is that like make it not the right decision because of that? Or you see what I'm saying? It like that was a real problem.
I'm gonna guess for you that most of those were neutral decisions. So remember I said regret can be either positive, negative, or neutral. If you regret yeah, exactly. If you regret neutral things, it's kind of meaningless. It's kind of pointless. There's no real point to regretting your neutral decisions. It is just mental worry. It doesn't do anything.
Terribly though.
It's like, oh, should I have eaten this omelet for breakfast, or should I have had
the other decision? I always think, and then I would change my mind. It was terrible.
That's called neutral regret, and it's pointless. My teacher says it's pointless.
Okay.
So
Well,
you never want to regret anything positive that you've done, and there's no point in regretting neutral things. You just move on.
well, it
You
didn't
think,
seem
oh well,
neutral.
coulda,
It
woulda,
did,
shoulda.
yeah, yeah. It didn't seem neutral, or I wouldn't have
Well,
regretted.
okay.
Yeah.
So you can judge. Here's how, according to karma, here's how we can judge or discern if our actions are positive, negative, or neutral. It all comes down to the intention. If you have a good intention, then for you, it was a good action. If you
Oh,
have a bad intention, then for you, it was a bad action.
oh.
If you have a neutral intention, then for you, it was a neutral.
So it's nothing to do with results. It's just the intention.
Okay. Some of, well, the intention is what leads to results. Intention is the driving force of karma. So it is about results, but like we don't know the results. I'm really gonna guess that you're wrestling with neutral decisions that weren't really good or bad. They
True,
weren't really good. And
true.
so that is a pointless type of regret. Now,
No.
part of the reason that you're doing that is that you are relating to a predetermined future that I've just been talking about. You're relating to a future that does not feel like a blank canvas.
Right. Fear.
You're relating to a future. Yeah, it could be fear or it could just be like permanence. We just think that there's something there. We think that the
Right.
future is not blank. There's something there, and that we can manipulate little factors that we have access to and then get a different outcome. But you're still thinking that the outcomes are there. If you realize that there's nothing there and that you can literally create anything that you want, then you will stop worrying about little decisions and you'll start focusing on the big decisions that could change your life.
Right. So it would be
And
like
like making sure,
as if the big decision, I mean, the decision, I would be thinking that it was the wrong decision because it was going to lead me to a life of regret or whatever, I would catastrophize it. And then I think I made the wrong decision because I would belabor the decision so much and I just couldn't decide.
mm,
So there you
okay, so
go.
that's an example of the fear, right?
Yeah.
That's a way that you can apply this fear formula to that type of thing, right?
Okay.
What is the negative future you're imagining? Can I
Oh,
accept the worst case scenario? Okay, let me overturn the limiting belief. Okay, now step 4, see the future as a truly blank slate canvas. And then step 5, I'll just go into real quick, is you would just imagine and believe in a positive future that you do want. This is literally what Buddhist Tantra is. In Buddhism, Tantra, there's 2 stages, but the first stage is all about imagining and believing in an enlightened world. That you are an enlightened being living in an enlightened world with enlightened actions, having enlightened effect on others. That is the first of 2 stages of Buddhist Tantra. And in this case, we don't have to make it this immaculate. You can have other versions of a positive future that you do want and just imagine and believe in those. I'm going to imagine and believe that I make a lot of money this month or this year. I'm going to imagine and believe that my family is happy and healthy. I'm going to imagine and believe that I'm confident and that I post on social media that nothing bad happens to anybody. In fact, lots of good things happen to a lot of people. Like, imagine when I do public speaking, I had to learn to reverse my negative mindset that imagine people judging me in negative ways and just you can just as easily imagine people loving it and people supporting you and people being happy. That's just as possible, right? It's just as true. In fact, it's more true because it's more aligned with reality, which is real reality is enlightened, actually. Real reality is divine. Divinity and reality are inseparable. And so anything that is realistic is divine. Anything that is divine is realistic. Anything separate from either is a lie and false. And so you just want to like step 4 is all about that. And then step 5 is you just kind of add visual to it. See something that you want. Imagine and believe it that is true, but as being inseparable from divinity too. Whatever you describe that, God or whatever, it is not a separation from truth. It is inseparable from truth, right? This only works if there's a possibility for it. So you want to believe in, you want to imagine and believe things that are possible. That's kind of a key, is you want it to be a realistic belief. Now, the lots of things are possible, but like you can't do it with like, oh, I'll get this person in my life and then I'll be happy forever. That's not realistic. A person can't make you happy, right? And so that would be an example of unrealistic way of applying this. But you could imagine and believe that like this person likes you and that you have a good relationship, or that you just feel really good all the time, or that you make money, but like you can't think the money's going to make you happy because it won't, but you can, but it's realistic that you could make money. That's possible. And so like imagine and believe in something that you do want as while regarding it as an aspect of divine truth or divinity in expression, right? Like a possibility, like a real possibility. So that's the fifth step, and that's a meditative step. You just kind of imagine it, you believe in it, you imagine it, you believe in it, you just spend more time. It creates like a mental groove. And the more you live there, the more true it becomes, the more your life looks like that. And that's it. That's the fifth step. And if you apply all these 5 steps all the time, you will really reroute your life. You will really overcome lots of bad things. You'll have a great life. And I've used these constantly in lots of spiritual ways, and then over the years, lots of ordinary ways too. And they do work. So hopefully this is helpful for all of you. The challenging part in the beginning is just identifying that the problem is related, and then actually deciding to do this work. Yeah, go ahead.
Beautiful. Just to conclude it up, because I know we're running out of time. I'm gonna go back and take notes on this part. Can you just list the 5 real quick?
I have to run. I want to thank you. I have to get my son right now, but this was great. Thank you
No
so
problem.
much. Yeah. Okay.
So
You're so welcome. Enjoy. I'll see you next time. Okay. I'll real quick go over the 5.
okay, yeah, then I'll let you go.
So no problem. Okay. So number 1 is we identify the actual thing that we're afraid of. So we know that there's fear within us, and we don't let that fear immobilize us. We try to identify, what am I actually afraid of?
Right.
Identify the thing that we're actually scared of, like I made you do. Number 2 is then you accept that as a possibility. Sometimes we call it accept the worst case scenario, but more precisely, it means accepting the actual thing that you are imagining and believing in that you're afraid of. You accept that thing, right? That Mark Zuckerberg is going to personally come to your house and shoot your mom with a bow and arrow or whatever it is. You're just like, okay,
Yeah.
I accept.
Right. Yeah, I got it. Okay. I took notes on the first part, so I just wanted to in my brain. And then 3 was
You do. Go ahead.
okay. You go ahead. So 3, I was going to listen to you.
Is where you do the belief shifting work. You try to replace whatever negative belief was at the core of that with positive beliefs. Use new positive beliefs and try out a whole bunch of them, because one of them will stick and you'll get a shift. You'll be like, I get it. Yeah, you're right. Like, I get it. Like any logic, any sanity, any new beliefs will work at that stage if you really did accept. So you do that belief shifting work, and it'll feel like a relief. It'll feel like, I got it, right?
And then the 4th and 5th were the
you can
applying the
meditate.
tantric, right? The 4th and 5th were like applying the tantric
Yes.
part. Okay. So the first 3 were the ones we did in the beginning. So
and
that's
like all these steps. Yeah. And you can meditate on all the steps. Like every step could be its own meditation, or you can do like a whole meditative process where you do all 5 at the same time, like in a row. But yeah, 4 was blank slate. The future is a blank canvas, and I can paint anything I want. There's literally unlimited possibilities for me. And you just get into that, because that's a freeing mindset just by itself. And then once you have that blank canvas, now you paint on it something that you do want, right? My future is a blank canvas. Now I'm going to paint a positive future that I do want. And I'm going to actually put energy into imagining and believing that this is true.